if they can dedicate 15 hours a week, they will see a deal a month, and an average deal is somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. So if $10,000 or $15,000 a month has an impact on your life, then it might be worth pursuing.
This is a really unique, original, exciting, high income opportunity. I want to just cut right to the chase by coming into the progress of income and then spread our topic into just day-to-day activity. Because if I'm somebody who's contemplating a new business model, there's basically going to be two things that matter to me. How is it going to affect my day-to-day life by way of responsibilities, and what can I potentially make? Because those are going to be my two prerequisites. And so those are the things I would rather focus on today. I'm not going to ask you to rehash your entire background. We'll just link the first video in the description. If people want to get a little bit of background on you, then they can go ahead and check that one out too. What have your last 60 days looked like? I mean, our last video was 3 months ago, basically. So tell me how it's been going.
So yeah, sure. Our last 60 days have been fairly productive. We had a pretty good July and August. We actually sold 5 houses. However, 2 of them didn't make it to closing. So we actually wound up just getting 3 sold then. We've sold 1 since then. So we just closed on our 11th deal today, actually, earlier today.
Oh, you closed on one today? Cool.
Today, yeah. Earlier today. Thank you. And that will be our 11th deal in total. This year we've grossed a little over 125,000, and we've netted a little over 80,000 out of that by the time you take out expenses and the split with corporate's office.
Okay. How much of that over the last 2 months? July, August. What would you pull in July and August?
July and August we sold 3, about 45,000 net gross.
Great.
And then out of that, the net's probably 38,000.
Super.
So
what about the deal today? What'd you guys pull in today?
We're getting it pulled in stages. So we get a little bit up front, a little bit in a month, and a little bit in another month. So that one would be another $15,000.
Okay.
It's not all one lump sum in this particular deal. It's kind of got spread out over a couple months, because that just kind of worked out for the buyer and for the seller as well.
Is the volume what you were expecting given the workload that you're putting in right now?
I think so.
Sure.
We definitely see peak times in late spring, summer, a lot of volume then. You know, around the 4th of July, probably that 2-week time period, I think we had 13 showings lined up in a 2-week time span. So a lot of volume. And of course, once kids went back to school, you know, families were kind of settling down. So, you know, you see a drop off in the number of showings at that point. But yeah, for the amount of work we're putting in, I think we're seeing the volume we expected.
Mm-hmm.
And give me kind of a timeline on how much you think you're dedicating right now. Give me an average hours per week, roughly.
We averaged out, it's usually somewhere between 15 to 30, depending on, you know, summer months, 30 a week, winter, or if you have lower inventory of homes, maybe about 15 a week.
Now, is that 15 each or collectively?
It's collectively. It's kind of hard to separate our time. We're sort of hooked at the hip and share the same brain, so it's difficult for us to split up the time between us. So we just kind of lump it all together. And, you know, and some of that is, you know, going out and doing showings. Some of our homes are a couple hours away from where we live. So it's a 4-hour round trip to go do a showing. So in those weeks, if you do 3 or 4 showings, you've already racked up, you know, 10 or 12 hours just in driving and showing a home. So, so that's where a lot of that, the actual sitting in the office and answering phones and getting deals and all that, that's probably a 10 to 15 hours a week to keep the inventory flow up. And we've noticed that there's almost a direct correlation with, if we're very consistent and make the calls every week like we should, we get a very consistent output. Unfortunately, when we had those good months in July and August, we focused more on the disposition side, the selling the home side of things, and let the acquisition side kind of falter a little bit and didn't focus on as much. So now we're in a position where we don't have as many homes to sell, so our volume of calls slowed down in the last month or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of that may be because of the school season and fall coming on and not as many people interested, but it also has something to do with the fact that we don't have as much inventory. We're down to maybe a half a dozen houses right now when we had closer to 15 or so starting into the year.
Very interesting. Now, for those that are tuning in for the first time and are unfamiliar with what it is we're discussing here, this is actually a business model that we've been researching for many years, showcasing it here on the channel for the last couple of years. Bobby and Jenny Witten are both W-2 wage earners coming out of the tech industry and have joined us once again here on the channel for a second time. Also VIP coaching members too, and took advantage of the Little Pink Houses model, which there's really two sides of the income and assets equation. One is income, one is assets. So while, certainly investing in long-term, say, hard assets like buy and hold real estate, for example, is a direction that we certainly are excited about. It's a very slow formula for increasing your day-to-day cash flow position, and the other side being the income of that balance sheet, basically being solutions for windfalls of capital. And that's where this, still being in the real estate business, which a lot of people are very excited about doing too, but $200, $300, $400, $500 each month in impact per property is not as thrilling. This is an option. And I usually try and couple these together, short-term net cash flow solutions with long-term net worth investing. And so Bobby and Jenny have been gracious enough to join us once again and just give us a sense of what they've been able to accomplish with the Little Pink Houses model. I certainly am not willing to bring anybody here on the channel as a guest that is sharing a potential solution and not do follow-ups throughout, because I want to ensure the quality of what we're teaching here and make sure that we're protecting you guys, the audience. And so this is a completely unscripted, unprepared conversation. And it's really just to find out, hey, how have things been going? Anytime Michael sees somebody that is doing something, Michael with Little Pink Houses will ping me and say, hey, just wanted to give you a quick update. And it's always at those points where I want to say, okay, well, let's really try and pull the curtain back and talk about, who the wizard really is, and say, is it what it's made out to be? And that's what you guys have been so transparent about. And I appreciate that very much. So altogether, I would imagine, just given that you're coming off of a couple of hot months, you're probably not feeling much differently about your decision to move forward with this as a business model, right?
No, and I guess the one thing that we didn't discuss, we discussed the kind of short-term influx of cash. You do also get opportunities on some of these deals to produce monthly cash flow. And right now we're producing about $1,900 a month in monthly cash flow off of these
Wonderful.
deals. So now those aren't long-term because the leases are usually so short, 12 months, maybe 18 months.
Okay.
But still, as long as you've got that flow going, you're probably going to see about the same number of deals that provide some kind of monthly cash flow as well.
Yeah, as long as you stick with it, that 1,900 isn't going to just evaporate. You'll replace it with new deals, right?
Right. When we kind of entered into the idea of doing this business with a Little Pink model, our idea was this would be our cash generator that we would turn around and use that to buy other cash flowing assets. And since we're in real estate, this year based on that model, we've bought 3 other income producing homes just for ourselves. Out of the income that we've gotten from Little Pink. And our next step is to start investing back into Little Pink to make that business grow and expand by, hiring some folks to help us out with this so we can start expanding and scaling out the business.
Fabulous. All the right steps. And so how much experience in real estate did you have prior to joining Little Pink Houses?
Well, we would become accidental landlords just by collecting some properties.
I remember talking about that. You had your primaries that turned into investments.
Primaries, right? And we were not at that time really doing it as the business. We just had this house, let's rent it. And we didn't run any numbers on it. We didn't understand how you really were going to have an asset that could produce positive cash flow every month. So they didn't. And in one case, I made the mistake of, renting out to family and friends. And when they don't pay that month, can you evict them? No, you can't. So we learned a lot of lessons before we really got into doing business. So I guess it was about in 2018, we had gotten to a point where we started, our cash flow had gotten positive. We'd paid off quite a few debts. At that point, we paid off my student loan debts, and all the other debts we had were just some homes. And then we decided, what are we going to do with this extra money? Well, we started looking around. One of the first places we landed was VIP Financial. And through you guys, it really taught us how we could increase that cash flow. I wound up getting a HELOC, and we've been using that HELOC like my checking account for the past almost 2 years now. And we just use it to go out and buy assets that produce cash flow. And then every month we pay Check Park and we rent Check Park, and we lower the balance of the HELOC. And as soon as we get enough money to buy something else, we go out and buy something else.
Singing all my favorite hits.
It works, and we have drunk the VIP Kool-Aid as well. I mean, it does work. It opened up our minds to a new way of banking, and Little Pink has opened up our minds to all kinds of ways of doing creative financing. And we're finding we're evolving as we learn that there's lease options, there's subject to deals, there's owner financing deals, there's wrap mortgages. There's plenty of more creative ways of getting these homes. We're kind of brute forcing it. We've got W-2 jobs, so we can get loans from banks, but that's paying our own money, save up, get a 20% down payment, go buy a house. We're right on the verge of learning that that's not the smartest way. The smart way is to use other people's money. Don't use your credit. Don't use your cash to do these. And Little Pink has taught us at least one way of doing that through the lease options. And then they've also brought our minds to these other opportunities as well.
So let's do a little filtering, because we can agree that not everybody is cut out for this, right?
I think that's exactly right.
So I like to sort of help people filter themselves, because I just think it's more honest than just pretending like everybody's going to kill it with this thing. And there's obviously a barrier of entry with the price. It costs money to get involved. Was that worth the price tag for you?
It was. Yeah. And as of this deal today, we have recouped all of our initial investment.
Wonderful. So did that happen faster or slower than what you would imagine typical business owners recoup their investments?
I think faster.
I think faster. I think our initial feeling was we'd have it recouped in 12 months. It's actually 18 months. We had a little bit of a slow startup. I think it took us about six months or so to kind of get our heads around the idea and to really focus in on what we need to do. So it took us about 6 months to kind of gear up the operation. Now,
compared to other businesses out there that you could buy a franchise in, I think this went faster than most.
Mm-hmm. Would you say, in retrospect, that having day jobs made this less realistic for you to be successful with and stay consistent with it, or would you encourage other people who have day jobs to consider this in addition to their normal position?
You can do it. You have to make sure that you have the flexibility and the time to devote to it, because that's what we like to tell folks anytime we're discussing it, is that it is work. I mean, you have got to consistently put in the hours every week to see the results. And so,
is that daily, or is that just you're bundling it into a handful of days during the week?
As much as we can, we bundle into the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, I see.
That's where we bundle most of the work, but there is some work that has to happen kind of daily. You do have to put out ads, and we put out ads at 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. It takes 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
The phone calls come in all day long. If we're working our W-2 job, we can't answer those calls at the W-2 job. So that means we get home at night, 5 or 6 o'clock. We've got to take several hours to call those folks back and make contact.
That's every day.
It's every day. It should be every day. Be honest, there's some days where we skip because we're just too tired to put in the next 2 or 3 hours, and we push it to the next day. Is that optimum? Not at all.
Right. I know if Mike were here, he would say, and you need to get those calls on first call, answer as the buyers are calling. You're more likely to connect with them and to see the follow through. And we definitely see that when we're working the W-2s during the week and we can't call back till that evening. You call folks and they're like, no, which home did I call you about? They're not right there at the computer looking at the Craigslist ad or the sign they drove past. Or you get voicemails a lot. So that's definitely somewhere we need to improve. And that's one of the things we're looking at hiring out and getting an employee for, is so that we can get more real-time answer for the phone. And what we found is there's a lot of VA services that, if we can give them a script, it's not too much of an expense to have a VA do that for you. And then just send you, the notes they take and the follow-up that you need to do.
Are these international VAs?
There's a lot. And actually, the corporate office, both our coach and Mike with the corporate office gave us 2 different recommendations for VAs We talked to both and have selected one and are about to hire them to start taking our calls.
At one point, we had probably 6 out of the Philippines, and they were fantastic. For literally 12 an hour is considered a really high rate of pay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, she had an MBA out of the States, an unrecognized, undetectable accent. It was a really quality addition to the team for a really long period of time, years and years. And so I think it's a great way to go. I mean, for 1,900, you could pretty much have somebody full-time who could probably, just shy of answering those calls live, get back to people almost instantly, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So is that a better possibility for you while maintaining the day jobs? Or what do you think the theoretical potential is if at some point you guys figured that the transition had been sort of long enough to this point where you could potentially even resign? Is that something that you guys have thought about and giving full-time dedication to this yourselves?
I've already been able to go part-time as a result of the progress and the realistic results that we're getting with Little Pink Houses. So that did allow me to kind of cut back to about 75% at my W-2 job. That frees up my time a little bit more to maybe spend an hour here or there during the day to take calls or do a showing. So that we definitely have seen that result. What we've talked about next steps is hiring out more of the business. We had said, especially me from the get-go, I really want to learn the business and make sure I'm comfortable with it before we hire employees to do certain tasks for us. So we've been at it long enough to know which aspects we're good at, which aspects we like, which aspects we'd rather hire out. And so that's really what we're focusing on next is the aspects, piecemeal, piece by piece, start hiring out certain things in the business and keeping other things we like or are good at.
Yep. Share the system, right? And train them. You now know what your expectations are. You've done it yourself.
Right.
Which means it's well understood. And then now as a process could easily be handed off. It's awesome. I think you're following exactly what I would have told you to do. So for those of you guys that, again, aren't necessarily clued in to what we're talking about, this is a really unique, original, exciting, high income opportunity we have brought to this channel on many occasions because of all the positive feedback that we get from our audience on this. And you can find out more about that by just checking the playlist below. If you want more information from a live person, you can certainly reach out to Pink at VIPfinancialeducation.com. We've set up a dedicated email address. It goes right to Michael and his team. Those guys will happily reach out to you. They'll answer your questions. No hard sales pitch involved. It's either you're a good candidate for it or it's not a good fit for either side. And so they're not going to try and strong arm somebody, which is a really important factor to solutions that we contemplate even bringing on here onto this channel. So guys, again, I can't thank you enough. I'm so happy for you. Is there any parting words that you want to share with the folks?
Well, I think we mentioned it before. This is work. This is a job. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And if that's the expectations people have, they'll be disappointed, and it's probably not a good fit for them. But if they can dedicate 15 hours a week, they will see a deal a month, and an average deal is somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. So if $10,000 or $15,000 a month has an impact on your life, then it might be worth pursuing. If it doesn't have an impact on your life, maybe it's not worth pursuing, and maybe it's not worth dedicating that 15 to 20 hours a week. And there are things that you won't like doing, but still have to be done, like any job. And that's what it is. So that also tells you probably what you need to be finding a VA for. The things that hurt and the things you don't like to do, those are the first things we're going to start contracting out.
100%. That's the same formula I follow too. If it has to be done and I don't enjoy it, I'm going to delegate it. If I don't enjoy it and it doesn't have to be done, gets the axe. So find stuff you enjoy and you'll stick with it. Bobby and Jenny, you guys are fabulous. I'm so stoked for you. And I want to just keep tracking the progress if you're open to it. So
absolutely. Anytime.
Let's plan on more calls as we go. And you guys just keep getting out there and making them more exciting.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure talking with you. And we're always more than happy to talk with you and your folks anytime.
Thank you.
And if you ever had to be this way, come by and we'll put you up for an evening and maybe even buy you a steak dinner or two.
Hey, you know, I'll never turn that down. And now that I'm on wheels,
Now on your wheels, there's plenty of campgrounds around here. You can pull up any of the nice ones and we'll come visit, or we'll host you either way.
well, thank you so much. That's really generous of you. And don't be surprised when I take you up on it. We'll be around. We're going to be traveling a lot next year. So thank you again. And you guys make it a great evening. Thanks for taking your night with me.
No, absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it a lot and hope to talk to you soon.
You guys too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.